Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by CoolStuffInc.com, Mana Traders, as well as Twitch subs and Patreon supporters just like yourself. I am Evan Irwin. We get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Power Dragon.
Hey, how's it going?
Well, Ruben Bressler.
Making a regular occurrence of this one. How you doing?
Everything is lovely.
I promise you that someday we'll get your name on the screen.
We're gonna get your name. You know,
by we I mean
we offered Power Dragon
right.
the rose, and he accepted, and we're all very excited about it.
It could be a running bit. It's just like I'm the perpetual guest.
he's not supposed to be here today.
Right.
You know, just the whole thing. Well, that said, if you missed our pre-show, patrons and subs to this channel get access to all that content early, where we talk all about like AI and movies and things that we're into. And we kick it off with our first bit in our giveaway. Get your chance at $50 worth of anything at CoolStuffInc.com by typing !Ravel in the chat. But sub first to get 2 chances to win. Use that hanging prime, y'all. And support your favorite streamer with your suggestions at the end of the show to see who we raid tonight. Thanks to our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every single day. And it is time for Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings giant premiere thing went up. It's Lord of the Rings. We've got Elijah Wood doing Magic the Gathering commercials, which is...
That was very cute.
Also fantastic.
It was very
There's a series of them. I didn't know that. He's done like 2 or 3 little ones.
Yeah, I'm excited to see more.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was not expecting more than just the one with the one ring and the pocket thing, and I was like, oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's all I needed.
I have it in my pocket. Yeah, exactly.
That's all I needed.
Well, you saw the follow-up, right? Where he did the lore is the final say or whatever.
You cannot pass. He's like, it's right here. It's like, well, it's like an interpretation. Like a lot of things, isn't it? Strange.
Yeah.
But
I'm very excited by how much the cast of Lord of the Rings still loves being a part of the cast of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
It makes me very happy.
Yeah, that's super cool. And appreciated. And so I figure we kick it off. We're going to talk about some individual cards from ourselves, but I wanted to kind of go through this article here that talks about collecting the Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth, because it goes through, like a lot of the products. Wizards, they went really deep, like deep into the product makeup, and the amount of releases for this thing is a lot. We already know the 1-on-1 of the ring. They actually showed that off in the video. Did you guys see that?
Yep.
And immediately the haters. Is that a Pringle? Did you get a Pringle already?
Like, here's the thing. Even if it's a Pringle, nobody cares because it's the only Pringle like it on Earth.
It's going to be in a very hard case, I promise.
It could get graded 5. And it's still going to be 6 figures.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be a ton. And the soul rings and whatnot, which are cool. The realms and box toppers, being able to reprint stuff like Cavern of Souls and the Great Henge. So, like, the boxes get that much more added value.
Mm-hmm.
The scene
we got
cards.
An ancient tomb. That ancient tomb which is the tomb
cool.
of the king in the Dwarven mine is sick.
And the way that they refer to the card, like, as itself, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't refer to the original, which is also awesome.
Very good.
Very cool. And they go through the ring treatments to the Nazgul. Hey, we have 9 Nazgul.
You can play 9 Nazgul. Perfect.
That's really neat. I think that's fun. Collector boosters, of course, which could have a house in there. Good luck to all those who buy their lottery tickets, which is fun. I think the map lands are unbelievable. At some point, you could just do a bit with how complicated these collector booster contents are and what can be in them and what not. And I don't know if people could recognize it being satire or not. Like,
yeah, I think some of us tried early on, and now the joke's dead.
It's just so crazy. So they have the draft, they have the set boosters, they have jumpstart boosters for the set. It's a set jumpstart. Not a great product. And they double dipped into volume 2. They're doing 2 set jumpstart releases. That's
jumpstart releases.
2, yeah. 2.
Why?
Something they probably planned years ago, and
so set jumpstart, famously Evan's least favorite Magic product.
It is.
It's up there for me.
I'm sorry.
It's up there the same for me. Yeah, it's not like. I think the problem was the original Jumpstart was so good and so well received that somewhere people got this idea of like, oh, we should do this more. And it's like, yeah, but not every set.
Yeah, this was a classic Wizard says you like a thing, let's keep doing the thing
Yep.
forever. And you're like, no, it's important not to, you watered it down. There's only like 5 or 6 different packs and stuff. And like, oh, it's just a hot mess.
Once a year as a starter product, I think would have been fine.
It's terrific. Absolutely.
But yeah, as it
So-
is, I hate it.
But with Lord of the Rings, it seems fine.
Well, we don't. Well, if it's the same makeup of it only has 5 or 6 different packs of cards, and it doesn't have any wild, crazy mythics that you're going to be chasing, it's just going to be the same thing. So maybe they switch it up. I don't know.
Yeah.
And they go through some of the extended art stuff that we've seen. There's the bundle gift edition. Like this die looks amazing. Like, just wanted to note that. I think that looks really incredible.
Yeah.
Pre-releases, that's coming up. Command Fest Orlando, y'all. That is a pre-release Command Fest, so that should be sweet. Check that out. They talked about the Commander decks. There are so many different versions of these characters. There's like 4 Frodos, 5 Frodos, or up to 5
Something like
Frodos?
that. And then there's like 3 or 4 treatments for each one of them.
Right.
It's too many types of this card.
Yeah.
Of any one card.
It's quite a bit, and here we have, as we were discussing, is the weirdest product that they didn't seem to really mention it. They did say here, in addition to the June 23rd release, even more is coming this year with November 3rd with special scene boxes, which we'll get to in a second. More of Jumpstart with Jumpstart Volume 2, and a special edition of collector boosters with a new type of foil treatment you'll have to wait to see. So, as I was speaking right now, at least as far as I know, this is on like no distributor website. Game stores can't pre-order this yet. It's just like a thing that's coming in the future, and we'll see what's cool about it when we get there at the end of the year. So that's
okay.
That's different. And look at this stuff, the scene boxes. Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth scene box contains 6 traditional foil borderless cards with art that combines to showcase one of the most epic scenes from the Lord of the Rings. Art card versions of the borderless scene cards with a paper easel to display them, and 3 Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth set boosters. And they're making 4
awesome.
of these. Yeah.
But that product makes sense to me, though, right?
Yeah.
Like, you have movie fans, and you're giving them like a unique piece, a way to show it off. Whether maybe they want to put that on their desk at work or whatever it is.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense as a product.
Yeah. This product is perfect. Like, this product makes perfect sense to me in every shape, way, and form. Sending it out with a way to display it is very cool. Although I anticipate many people will get their own framing for it. It's nice that framing is provided. And I guess you can play with these cards if you want to play with these cards as well. It'd be like taking out a nice suit, right? If you have a nice pair of shoes at home that you like keep in a or you have those ring boxes watch boxes that spin to display them. It's like that, but you can wear the watch every once in a while.
Right. I mean, they give you the 6 art cards and they give you the 6 scene cards, right? So you can just put the art cards there and it still makes the picture and all that stuff, and it sure looks really cool and lets you play with the other cards. So those are neat and interesting. Here comes Volume 2 of Jumpstart. To me, it's, you know what? I just like this decision was probably made so long ago, it doesn't matter.
But I'm all right with Jumpstart for Lord of the Rings rather than a standard expansion. Specifically because it feels more like a Jumpstart product to me.
Sure.
It depends on the makeup. If it's just sort of the same thing, I would not be super excited about it. But either way, so there are lots of crazy products for this. There's lots and lots of releases. Wizards clearly went super deep with these, which I thought was really cool. They also finally got to announce the Command Fest promos, which you can now see if you go to commandfestorlando.com, which was brought to you by coolstuffinc.com, and I helped plan the whole thing.
Where you can find cool stuff in stock every day.
You definitely should go and check it out. And so, but you do have some really cool promos. The promo is Karis Galadhorn, I believe is how you say that, which is Tranquil Thicket. But the real one is Gandalf, Friend of the Shire, with the movie poster image on it.
Yep.
That is
pretty good.
That is very nice, and I think that is really cool. And we definitely saw a jump in signups as soon as these promos were announced. People are very excited about them, and I think they're really cool. And so check that out when y'all get a chance. And
what is the image for the event pass?
Oh, For the event pass, well, it depends. Well, for the VIP, you have Liliana of the Veil, which is neat. And this is like all the Professor stuff. We got a Professor playmat, Professor
that's
tokens.
Professor. I was like, I didn't recognize the art, and it's the Professor. Got it.
Yes, it is for one Brian Lewis, the Professor, and so he's going to be there, and that's going to be cool. And y'all can get those promos by going to the show, and a lot of fun with that stuff. Very excited to have that out in the world. Let's see here. Yeah, so we were talking also about Elijah Wood doing commercials. We need more of that in my life.
Yeah,
I need all the commercials.
Yeah, Elijah Wood is just extremely charismatic, and of course, everyone involved with the Lord of the Rings film series seems to love that they were a part of this. And it's adorable to see that sort of love and adoration for a role continue to be embraced. You know, I think that it's also nice to have, you know, celebrities who are willing to be a part of something that's Magic the Gathering related. Magic is a big enough part of culture at this point that you can get people like Elijah Wood to be a part of a little promo like this. Sneaking the One Ring into his pocket in that one commercial is like,
That's great.
It's exactly what I want from a Lord of the Rings promo.
You know, and I think we forget, just, you know, because of time and COVID, that at the beginning of all that, we did have the commercials that had like Machete. That dude was in them.
Yeah.
Patton Oswalt was in a couple of commercials. Right. You know, so like we were headed down that path, and then, you know, the world fell apart. So I don't know what the strategy is going forward, but hopefully these are at least well received enough that they consider doing something like that again.
Yeah. We had Deborah Ann Wall and Joe Manganiello helped with the Innistrad sets, when they're famous from True Blood, of course, and both have worked with Wizards of the Coast on the D&D side previously. So, you know, celebrities and actors who are known for playing and loving fantasy and nerd products, specifically Magic. I think it's only going to happen more often going forward, for sure.
There you go. All right. So let's go ahead, and before we get to what I would describe as the nonsense, let's talk about some of the cards that are in the set, because there are some really cool cards. They've released a whole bunch of them already. I got to grind a gear a little bit here.
Sure. What you got?
I'm not really sure. Why is this not in standard again?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm with you, because I only saw maybe a handful of cards.
Right. That I would be worried about.
Standard.
Right.
I saw a couple cards that I was worried about.
Okay.
Two of which I'm talking about.
And that's fine, right? But okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, we are kind of fairly spoiled these days, you know? And I just feel like a lot of our cards are already pushed pretty good. And I don't think they kind of went Modern Horizons level here or nothing.
Oh, no.
They're not redefining archetypes. There's no Hogax in here or whatever. Yeah. And
I don't think that we're going to have a Ring Tempts You deck based on the cards I've seen. Because in Modern,
like, I am so like, for those wonderful people at Wizards who may be listening, I'm the whale. I'm the guy who will spend money to get as many cards as I can to make sure I get sets of stuff. I don't even think I'm going to buy the 50-pack bundle this time for Arena that I've bought every other time. I even bought freaking Alchemy, y'all. But like, these cards are not going to go in Historic. The ones that go in Historic are going to be like 3 of them. Though I'll craft those. Right. I'll play limited with the rest of the set, but then I don't really have, barring getting one of everything for a, Historic Brawl. Who cares?
So I think that they probably decided they didn't need it to be a standard legal product early on, because they knew they were going to sell enough product outside of it being standard relevant, just because it is Lord of the Rings based. I also think that they said, we don't necessarily want a product that is not a Wizards of the Coast IP to be in standard. I get it.
I understand.
And
that
then the decision came later on, and I would have thought that they would have said, all right, we're not making it for standard. Let's make it ridiculously powerful on a level that would be like Universes Beyond or Modern Horizons. And then they just kind of didn't do that.
But here's my thing, though, right? Like, they've been talking about, we know we want more people to play standard. We know we need the format to be more dynamic and whatever than it is. And we're doing this stuff for the ban list. We're extending standard by a year. and now we're going to have another summer where there's not a new standard set. So it's
Now-
like, even afterwards, I think it's easy to say, okay, we see the power level of the set. We know what's coming out. We know we want to keep standard interesting. This would even be a good jumping on point for people to want to play more standard, right? Because they're Lord of the Rings fans and they go to the local store and play F&M or whatever it is. And we're just not going to have new standard cards for another, 4 months or whatever.
Right.
Yeah,
you have to explain.
They definitely. Sorry.
Go ahead.
They definitely could have just retconned their earlier decision and said this will be in standard.
Like, I recognize a few things. One, that, the set development probably took a lot longer because there was approvals and processes and stuff you have to go back and forth. I understand the IP not being Wizards IP as a standard product. Okay, sure, whatever. But beyond that, which again is just kind of like up to them / arbitrary. It's their decision. It's their sandbox. But again, I'm just like. It looks right now that the reason that this set is as expensive as it is what they describe as a mid-tier pricing. There's like Ultimate Masters and there's like, the Modern Horizons and there's the random standard sets, is because there's licensing fees involved. Not because we're at some weird power level that just, demands the price increase. I'm like, well, it's okay. You just got to pay for the license. It's a great license. But either way, let's talk about some of the cards. First card I wanted to talk about was Minas Tirith. Obviously a really cool location in the movies and certainly here on the card itself. Minas Tirith is a rare legendary land that enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a legendary creature. It taps to add 1 white mana, and for 1 white and a generic mana tap : you draw a card. Activate only if you attack with 2 or more creatures this turn, which you just never do with a white deck. So, I mean, what are you going to do, right? But having a land that's, basically going to be great with Thalia, right? And basically on curve on turn 3 to play something, Thalia, attack with both, play Minas Tirith, draw a card, seems pretty powerful, and I like what it looks like.
Absolutely. There is a fairly powerful Legends Matters deck in Modern already, if I recall correctly, where it plays Mox Amber and Urza's Ruinous Blast, alongside, stuff like this. It can either splash red or not for cards like Ragavan and Zurgo, Bellstriker, but certainly already plays, some all-stars like Isamaru and some small, 1-cost legends. I don't recall if, like, Yoshimaru is playable in Modern or not, but that would certainly be powerful with this card as well. Good coming down before and after the Good Pupper. So this card is, I almost put it on my list as like one of my first 3 cards because it's a home run. It's a slam dunk. There's no way that this doesn't see play.
It's weird to me.
I think the card's just good. It's going to show up in a lot of places.
Yeah, it seems like really powerful. Even if I had to put it into play tab, it's not the end of the world. It's just that, it's kind of weird that we keep getting the Legendary Matters theme, right? Huh? It's Kamigawa, Legends Matter, and it's like, it's Dominaria United, Legends Matter, and it's like, okay, we get it. Like, Legends Matter all the time, everywhere.
Well, it makes sense for Lord of the Rings. It makes sense for D&D. It makes sense.
It made sense for Kamigawa and Dominaria. I get it, but like, we've been to that well's been there.
Yeah, but are we complaining?
I mean, it's fine. Not a big deal.
It's like, it's the same thing. Are you tired of, like, flying? Like, I'm okay with this.
I mean, well, actually, one thing I did notice here is that, as far as I know, there are no double-faced cards in the set. Like, it's actually just, I think it's been a minute since we've not had any double-faced cards in a Magic set.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it has been a while.
Even to some, small degree, usually, but, still. So after Minas Tirith here, I wanted to talk about Mirkwood Bats. Everybody's losing their mind over these stupid bats, whether it's the Pauper community or just the Commander community, at least so far. It's a black and 3 generic mana for a common 2/3 bat that has flying. And whenever you create or sacrifice a token, each opponent loses 1 life. I will say, this is kind of scary. Just as a sentence that exists right there.
Yeah.
Treasures,
that's a unique
say hi.
sentence.
I mean, I'm into it, but it's kind of, I feel like it's more redundancy for the decks that already have the other cards that do things similar to this. Because I'm thinking about it in terms of like when everybody, and I literally got DMs, of people freaking out about the Commander Advisory Group not caring to ban mother machines, right? Because they're like, oh, this is going to come in, it's going to turn everything off, and it's going to allow too many effects, and it's going to break Commander. And I think I've seen it on like 3 games. Like it's just not a thing. And I think this is going to like do some really powerful things, but I don't know if it's going to do it consistently enough, especially being 4 mana, that like it's going to be that bad. Now, maybe in competitive Commander, maybe it's a thing, but hell, I was watching people do write-ups of some of their stuff yesterday on social media, and some of the competitive Commander games are done on turn 2 and 3 anyway. So like, if that's the case, then
I mean, how crazy is it gonna be? I don't really know, but man, people are just like, this is a problem, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's a unique effect. I'm
not feeling it. I think it's gonna be good, but I don't think it's that insane.
In Pauper, it's going to be quite powerful. We don't have. I don't know if Kendra's in the chat this week, but I think that.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, if Maverick Girl is in the chat this week, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that it's going to be, we've got things like Kuldotha Rebirth. We have a lot of treasure stuff in Pauper as well. It is, we see 4 mana creatures that have this sort of incremental kind of effect be good in that format, like Thorn of the Black Rose. Boros Monarch, for example, is another one. So there's definitely room for this in that format. I also don't know that it's going to see play in a ton of, CEDH, but it's a sentence that is unique. And so if it pops up in CEDH, I would not be terribly surprised.
Yeah, sure. It's the fact that you get it sort of coming and going, and the fact that there's no mana payment on either side of it.
Because, I mean, you already have stuff like Fireweaver, that every time an artifact comes into play, deals a damage, and it only costs 2 mana. And, like, that doesn't even see a particularly ton of play as it is. So, like, I'm looking at stuff like that. Kind of like the same way that, like, there's still this whole discussion on, like, Dockside Extortionist and how insane is this card or not. Like, in my games, the most I've seen it make, I've only seen it make more than 5 treasure twice. And I see that card in our games less than we see like Smothering Tithe. We were just having this discussion in the CAG not long ago. So like, so many games are so varied and different. Even if it does do a big thing, you may not even see it that often.
And they're like, each opponent, it says each opponent. I'm like, okay, it says each opponent. Like,
there's a lot to love about this card.
Yeah, absolutely. I like it. It's fun to like it. It's all right. Yeah. So card is cool. I think it's neat. Definitely a little controversial. The last card I want to talk about was Gimli, Mournful Avenger. This is a red-green and generic mana for a rare 3/2 legendary dwarf warrior. A Gimli, Mournful Avenger has indestructible as long as 2 or more creatures died under your control this turn. And whenever another creature you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Gimli. Yet another trigger that requires no mana in order to get things happening. When this ability resolves for the 3rd time this turn, Gimli fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. So you play him and you sack 3 creatures and you fight with a 6/5 indestructible. Just want to say, am I reading that right?
Yeah.
That's powerful stuff.
Seems great.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing about it is, like, you can run stuff into combat, and Gimli doesn't even need to be involved to get bigger. Like, you can just be like, hey, all right, I'm going to send these 3 dorks in. You decide if you want to block them or not. So it at least creates some interesting situations, even if you don't have a true sack outlet. The other thing, too, I noticed on it, it's not on your turn or when you're attacking. It's just like, so you could block with the dorks and still grow your creature. You know, that's something else that can happen.
And fight.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a bunch of really cool things that you can do with this guy. I mean, there's what comes to mind for me is Eldrazi Scion tokens, because those are able to help you get your things out quicker. Like, you can go Gimli, sack an Eldrazi Scion, play a 1 colorless mana thing that also sacrifices, right? And then sort of combo off that way. So very scary card, very cool card, but it takes a lot to get going.
Takes a minute,
but I think it can certainly get there for sure.
Yeah, just one of those cards that, again, just like the bats, right? I was like, you do that for free. You don't have to pay anything. It's just going to naturally happen because there's combat, and that super sweet fight ability can come out of nowhere. And that to me sounds like a cool Magic card. So, Ruben, what is your first card you want to talk about?
Hey, they made white good in the Lord of the Rings set, it turns out.
They did.
Because the good guys win, spoiler alert, in Lord of the Rings. And one of the coolest and best cards, I think, in the set that will see a lot of modern play as a finisher, in my opinion, is Gandalf the White. Gandalf the White is 3 generic white for a 4/5 legendary creature avatar wizard with flash.
Ooh.
That is a control finisher. If I've ever seen one, 5 mana flashed in at the end of the turn, count me in. You may cast legendary spells and artifact spells as though they had flash. Whew boy. Like that sentence. If a legendary permanent or an artifact entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. I mean, all of that is great. I'm not sure I need much more than 4/5 flash for 5 mana. But if they're going to make everything else in my deck also have flash and do twice as much, I think I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I just realized something. Did all the wizards in this set have flash?
I don't know that all of them.
I don't think so, but I think
because I feel like several of the ones I read had flash.
Yeah, I mean the Panharmonicon for legends and artifacts entering or leaving the battlefield causing triggers, like that's huge. I don't know how else to say that, because like when you see those triggers start going nuts, it doesn't take a lot of them for you like, man, that Gandalf just like completely did crazy stuff. And when you get out your Panharmonicon and Gandalf and just just goes completely nuts. I mean, that's just good, clean living right there.
Speaking of your mother of machines, this goes along well with that. I mean, there's so many, cards that you could put into there's already a white, like, what's that card called? Michiko Finds the Truth or whatever. There's a mono white artifacts deck in like historic, so you could play cards alongside this, like I don't know. Esper
Michiko's Reign of Truth.
Michiko, that one, and lots of affinity cards. Lots of these artifacts have come into play abilities. Much less if you want to build something like an Ichor Wellspring kind of deck. So it seems very cool.
Card's very neat.
I'm into it.
What's your next card?
Oh, sorry. So my next card is called Forge Anew. Forge Anew tells the story of the blade that was broken and was remade, and it is 2 generic and a white for an enchantment that says when it enters the battlefield, return target equipment card from your graveyard to the battlefield. As long as it's your turn, you may activate equip abilities at any time you could cast an instant, and you may pay 0 rather than pay the equip cost of the first equip ability you activate during each of your turns. This card is very scary. I think that the odds of this card being in Modern are 100%. This card is Greasefang. This card is Greasefang, but instead of Parhelion and Essica's Chariot, you're playing Cauldron Complete and Batterskull.
Right.
That is what this card is.
Some level of redundancy for like Pure Steel Paladin in that deck? Because that's
could
already
also be that, for sure.
Yeah.
Colossus Hammer says, what's up? Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you could also build something like an Argentum Armor kind of stratagem with Forge Anew. There's a lot of cool stuff that you can do with this card.
Yeah, this is the type of card where you go, what is the most expensive equipment that I can find to put in my graveyard? And what is the most expensive equip cost? And how can we both just put them in our deck so we can see this thing work? Because now all of it's free at instant speed. When you're able to move equipment at instant, I'm telling you, that is a wild ability. And that's why it could show up in Modern, because that is insane.
Yeah, it's extremely powerful. It's like, it's not a creature, so it's harder to kill than Greasefang.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't return the equipment to your hand, and you can do all of it at instant speed. So as long as you're okay with Cauldron Complete and Batterskull over top of Parhelion and Essica's Chariot and Sky Sovereign, I think you're in business.
Yeah.
My third card is another one that's just like, how does this not see play somewhere? All of the text on this card is great. Boromir, Warden of the Tower, is a 3/3 for 3 mana. It's a human soldier, legendary creature, human soldier. I mean, we're already got enough stats with vigilance. Great. We have a keyword, it attacks and blocks. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. That's a heck of a sentence. So we're countering force of whatever's, we're counting moxes.
Elementals.
Yep, we're counting
all those elementals from Modern Horizons.
Yep. Anything that you're not paying retail for, or even paying more than 1 mana for. That's a tough one. Now it's an anti-combo with Thalia in that case, but you do what you can to get by. And then it has another ability: sacrifice Boromir, Warden of the Tower. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. The ring tempts you, so it protects the rest of your team. It has that classic end of the Fellowship moment with Boromir protecting the rest of the hobbits. And also, every time you sacrifice a progressive Boromir, you get another effect. You're sort of going, up the Undercity or delving into the initiative a little bit like that. So very cool that Boromir is able to do that as well. It's just got a bunch of stuff that's good together.
It's blowing my mind, the armchair designer quarterbacking of people going like, the ring's supposed to do bad stuff. And it's like, they told you clearly, no one will play this ability if it sucks. If it makes you do something bad, no one's going to play this ability. They said like one of the first things they said when they debuted the ring tempts you. They're like, look, we tried the downsides. You're just not going to play it at that point. You're just going to be like, I'll do something else and not get any downside. Because Magic is not a game of downsides these days, just so you know.
Sure. I mean, I guess I'm still willing to pay 1 life to draw a card. So, that's a downside. Yeah. I'm still willing to...
2 life to pay this Shockland untapped. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the ring could have been it gives you 3 or 4 really good effects. But, if it's still on the creature on that last one, the creature dies or the creature... I don't know, gets negative stats or, something probably would have been okay.
They could have stapled lose 1 life every time the ring tempts you.
Yeah, something
or
like
something.
That.
And maybe I'm sure they tried something, I'm small.
Sure they tried it.
Yeah. And, I believe that they did everything they could to, make it as flavorful as possible. But if people ain't playing with the ability, it doesn't matter how damn flavorful it is. It's not going to succeed, All right, anyway. So, Ruben, that was your last one. Power Dragon, let's talk about your 3.
Yeah, this first one's kind of interesting because I was looking at this set as being, we don't get to play it in Standard. So I want to look at some really cool things that work for Commander. But this first one, Gollum Scheming Guide, is actually pretty cool. And it could actually make its way into some 60-card formats. And what I like about it is the flavor on this card. You're literally doing the Gollum thing of deciding can you trust what you're telling your opponent or not? Right? You get to look at some cards and you go, okay, is the top card this thing or that thing? And your opponent just gets to decide. And if they're wrong, you just get a free attack, and that's great. It's unblockable, all that good stuff. But otherwise, it is actually removed from combat, and that sucks for you because your opponent guessed correctly that you were lying to them. So, I'm kind of into this. It's a weird little 2-mana 2/1, but I don't know. I like it. I like the fact that we found a way to do this flavor just right, and the card might actually still be competitively playable, which is kind of neat.
This was a card, if I recall, this was one that was spoiled accidentally at the very start of the preview season stuff. And the huge question was, what is the mana cost on this card? If it's 1 black, we've got Ragavan 2.0 and blah, 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 well, it's not quite that good, but it is pretty freaking good. It is always basically unblockable. It will always, do your attack trigger if you need one. And you'll always get to play this little silly game, and sometimes you'll get there and sometimes you won't. And it's crazy flavorful, and I love it.
And it's a lot of free information every turn, right? You're just getting to see the top of your library constantly for practically no drawback.
Basically nothing.
I mean, your opponent gets a little bit of information, but they still don't know what the card is, even if they guess correctly that it's the right type or not. So, yeah, it's kind of an interesting card all the way around.
There you go. Okay, what do you want to talk about next?
Yeah, let's talk about the last March of the Ints. This one, okay, it does have a high mana cost. So, obviously, this is a commander-centric card at that cost. You're not going to play it in 60 card. but it can't be countered, so that's cool. You're gonna get it to pop off. But I'm expecting I'm going to lose a lot of games to this card. Like, your opponent's just gonna draw like 8 or 10 or whatever, and then put some number of things into play. And if there's any type of combo-y thing between them, I'm dead. But you know what? I'm kind of cool with that. Like, if the board state sets where there's a couple of creatures that have just gone really tall, you draw some cards, you go for it. And if nothing else, you just rebuild your board, and at least try to work your way toward the end of the game. And I'm always a big fan of cards that, like, if they do a big thing and they're advancing the end of the game, I'm okay with it. Right? It's the problem I have is with cards like Cyclonic Rift, where we just pick up everything and then we're playing for another like 8 turns or whatever. But this card will lead to the end of the game one way or the other. Like, either you're gonna have to do something to the person that just got, like, who knows, probably 5 free things, or they're gonna kill everybody. So I'm really big on this card. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun.
For our audio listeners, Last March of the Ants is 2 green, 6 generic mana for a mythic sorcery that says this spell can't be countered. Draw cards equal to the greatest toughness among creatures you control, then put any number of creature cards from your hand onto the battlefield. I don't really think it matters so much that this spell can't be countered as much as it is what is still alive when it resolves.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's great that it can't be countered, woo! But like, your creatures all have to live and still exist when it resolves. So,
but think about the stuff that, like, with elf decks, sliver decks, whatever, like that can do big mana very quickly and still have a bunch of creatures that care about each other and do stuff in tandem. Like, that's a board state that could go from maybe even having just a 5/5 or a 6/6 to having a pile of like 9/9s, in just one quick spell. So yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun to play with.
Yeah, and you can also do some really cool stuff with Fangorn Tree Shepherd in this set, which is a 10 toughness legendary tree folk that will make you mana to be able to cast the Last March of the Ents, which I think is very flavorful. If you're spending 8 mana on a card, I kind of want it to win the game for me.
It better do something.
And I think Last March of the Ents either does it the turn you cast it, or it sets you up, or puts your opponent in check.
And that's the limited bomb, one of the best ones to have too, because like, I can't imagine how you lose unless you just have, I don't know, 6 or 7 lands in a row there. Right. Like, it's going to be really hard to lose after you cast that card.
Yeah, you have to break pretty hard. So what is your last card and what does it do?
Our last one is Aragorn Eowyn Wed. This is just one beautiful art on a card, just all the way around. But it's a 6 mana 3/6 with vigilance. It's a human elf noble, so it fits a lot of creature types, which is nice. And whenever this card enters the battlefield or attacks, you put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, and you gain 1 life for each other creature you control. This is another card that can just swing board states very fast by itself, because it's going to come into play, put counters and everything. You're going to gain some number of life. This is huge if you're playing like token decks or whatever. And then when you attack, you're going to get to do it again. So your creatures effectively are getting +2/+2 before you even get to deal damage after it's been out. And you've gained 2 life for each creature you control. Like, that's huge. And not even counting for decks that, especially now, all the decks that have +1/+1 matters or whatever are putting counters on things. That's going to be a really, really big card. Like, I'm expecting this to do a lot of work in several Commander games.
For sure.
Hardened Scales and Friends,
Yeah.
Yep.
Needs things to do, let's go.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly the 6-drop you want in the green-white deck. Like,
+1/+1.
There's
I've got
bunch
a
of
Hamza
cards
deck that's waiting on that card right now.
Yeah. There's a bunch of cards in this deck that do some of what Aragorn and Arwen Wed does, but not all of it. And this does it every turn from when you cast it till it leaves the battlefield. Gains you life for a little bit of a buffer, and then puts +1/+1 counters on all your creatures. I think it's a great card.
And in those decks that care about the +1/+1s, there's already, I think, like 7 cards that give you redundancy for getting an additional +1/+1 on a card when you get one.
Right.
So even if one of those is out, now every one of those is an additional counter. So you might be getting +6/+6 before those tokens even get to attack that next time, which is pretty wild.
Combine this with Kami of Whispered Hopes, or the Branchwood Brawler from the most recent
the new
set.
Ozolith, the last Vornklex does it. Doubling Season. I mean, like, Hardened Scales. There's a ton.
Yeah, there's lots and lots of enablers for this type of effect, and it's that great like top end sort of slam down 3/6, tons of toughness. Like you better have a Doomblade or something because you can't just bolt this thing out. It'll be really sweet. Now, for the last little bit here, wanted to shout out the pre-release.
Yeah.
Which we have we all had the pleasure of doing. Have Power Dragon, have you done?
No, this is my first time. I will be going to Canada next week for the first time to play with them.
Incredible!
You're gonna love
Congrats.
it. Congrats!
You're gonna love it.
So much fun.
Yeah, we've actually been trying to make it happen, but like we had a scheduling thing one time, and then I had a commentary gig the same weekend they wanted to do one. So like we just haven't been able to make it lined up. This is the first time. So
man,
gonna go for it.
Evan and I were up there for Rivals of Ixalan. That
nice.
old chestnut.
Yeah.
But yeah, the moon. You get to visit the new moon base. I think we visited 2 moon by ago.
No, I'm going to close out the old moon base. We are the last thing there. I think we're the last thing they're going to be filming there or whatever before they move.
Very nice.
Nice, which I think was the place we were at, Ruben. There was that moon base, I think.
Oh, okay.
And so
because we were there when they were moving in.
Right, they'd sort of just gotten it, and it was new and cool, and they put all the stuff up and the plaque with the people's names and stuff. So that was super cool, and
very cool.
Yeah, you get to have the breakfast in the morning, which will be super neat. At that
the breakfast in the morning, you get to just hang out, maybe go down to their local game store. They're really nice folks, and I hope you have a great time.
Yeah. I expect to. Like I've been socializing with them at like different events we've been at, and we've been exchanging messages online. So they've all been great. So I don't expect anything less.
Yeah, you'll be there alongside Zbex and Chase Carroll, and that'll be next Saturday, June 10th.
Yeah,
and that sounds like a whole heck of a lot of fun. And I can attest it will be. All right, so we don't really have Desperate Ravens this week, but I just want to kind of throw it in here, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it because it's just kind of really gross and really negative. But we are about the zeitgeist of Magic, and there is some absolute foolishness that is happening. And Power Dragon of us, I think no one is better to kind of at least talk about it a little bit and what you see and how things are happening.
Yeah, I like here we were talking about this earlier, and I think this is kind of the issue. If you were genuinely bothered and really truly invested in the Lord of the Rings lore and the interpretation of race on different characters bothered you, that would be a reasonable conversation to have in good faith, and we could have that conversation. The problem, though, is the majority of the people who are making that statement are not intending to have the conversation in good faith.
Right.
To that point, I spent Saturday night, I believe it was, going through all the negative responses on all my social media stuff. And for about 2.5 hours, I literally was clicking on IDs, going and looking at the most recent 20 comments or posts or tweets, depending on the platform I was on. And they were all just awful people. I mean, where you're talking about negative stuff about trans people, making fun of people about race, making fun of poor people, Fox News, whatever. Like, I mean, it was a lot of that. So the thing I will say is this. If you are one of those people that it does bother you, or you genuinely are invested in it, consider the fact that while you may think that is a genuine stance that is correct, look at all the people that support you and are saying the same things, because you may not be racist, but if the racists agree with you, just saying, you may not be, and genuinely may not be, but if the racists think you're racist, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. And these are people that I can literally tell you, there were people that were going on just to try to make fun of my name, people that were trying to say like, well, LaQuisha's not going to go out and buy more Lord of the Rings or whatever, right? There was that stuff. There were some people that genuinely were even saying, you're thinking about it too deep. We're just tired of you people. Right? That was one of the comments. So like, yeah, like people were off the rails. So
unbelievable.
To say it's not a problem, it's a thing. It's definitely a thing. And those are not people trying to even have a remotely reasonable conversation.
Right. And, just to, it's kind of amazing. And in that Wizards has truly created the litmus test for 2023 of, again, good faith, sure, but you know you're not in the right feedback group at this point, and it just gets really gross. And whew, it's been a whole lot, and I'm sorry that you've had to deal with what you've had to deal with, because it's been really gross, honestly.
You know, I will say, if I hadn't had to do commentary and got up at like 7 in the morning and did all that and made some videos and some other stuff, and then had to deal with that at like whatever it was, like midnight, 1 in the morning, probably wouldn't have bothered me so much. Like, it was just more like at the end of everything, and I still had to wake up the next day to do a second day of commentary.
After all that foolishness.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
timing was bad.
Yeah, pretty much. And so yeah, it's for what it's worth, you know, to try to talk about the positive aspects of, you know, different races and interpretations where it has been positively received, has been crazy positively received. It's been super cool and encouraging for parts of the community have never seen themselves represented this way, and I thought that was fantastic. So there's a nice side of this, but man, there's an ugly side of this that's just been a lot to read and get through. We move right now out of the first pick to gather the townsfolk thanks to our sponsor, Mana Traders, the best tool to enhance your Magic Online experience. Use the code MagicMikes for 12% off your next subscription with them, and tell them we sent you, and we appreciate their support. Now, the ban and restricted announcement. This was... it came from on high. We knew it was coming. The shop and arena foretold what was going to happen. They really did put Fable and Reckoner Bankbuster on sale and then said nope. And here we are on May 29th, a couple days ago. In Standard, Fable the Mirror Breaker, Invoke Despair, and Reckoner Bankbuster are all banned, and it's about time, is one way to put it.
Yeah.
Like, thanks. We appreciate it now.
No, I mean, well, now that Standard's a 3-year cycle, it's not a too little too late. This is not an Alrund's Epiphany situation.
Right.
Because we have a whole nother year of these cards. So I'm perfectly happy with the timing, honestly.
You know, as
I'm with you. If it was up to me, though, I could probably think of another 3, 4, 5 cards that I would have been okay being on the list just to do a complete shakeup if that's what we were trying to do. Like, just say, hey, these other cards have been around long enough. Like, let's just shake up everything so we have a really fun format leading into the fall when we really get a whole new standard. You know, I'd have been okay with that.
You know, as much as I certainly know, and I've certainly played with it and invalidated like dozens of my decks, I know that Fable was definitely a problem, but also was one of the funnest problems to ever kind of have to deal with because it was a cool, fun, neat card, did stuff. I'm actually kind of most happy about Invoke Despair because I've never seen Black just be able to just get X for 1 out, and if you don't X for 1 them, you draw a bunch of cards and deal a bunch of damage. Like, it's kind of incredible for that card to do what it did. And
the card
also
literally does everything.
You hit enchantments for Black. What?
And it gets rid of Planeswalkers. And then if they do, okay, great, fine. Yeah. If they don't, then they lose life and you get a card. Like, what?
Right.
Why?
3 for 1 or awesome? Like, what?
Yeah.
I was, that card is nuts. And, you know, it's funny, all the invokes kind of saw a little bit of play here and there as people kind of tried them out and saw what they could do. But once they more or less found Invoke Despair, that was just tier 1 for the duration.
I'm pretty sure I was streaming the first time I played Invoke Despair, and I literally cast it, and then I thought about it, and I went, chat, I think something's wrong with this card.
Card is
like that didn't feel right at all.
Yeah.
And like, this card might be too good.
Yeah, there are definitely moments in the history of Magic where someone cast something in a context that they had not like realized previously. The most famous example of this that I can think of is when they were testing the blue-white Stoneforge deck for PT Paris. And I remember the story, as Brad Nelson would tell it, was the first time they played a turn 2 Stoneforge Mystic in their blue-white control deck to find Batterskull, they went, something's terribly wrong here. Like, we have done something terrible, and we should feel bad, but we're also going to win this Pro Tour.
So,
sounds right.
I'm old man Magic. I was there when the rocks were soft, right? So I'm trying to give you an idea of how good Reckoner Bankbuster is.
Yeah.
If you think of Jam Day Tome, 4 mana to play, 4 mana for a card. Instead, half both of those costs, have it also be able to turn into a 4/4, have it also make the creature that can turn it into a 4/4 after you've drawn 3 cards off it. The card was just insanely efficient in every deck in Standard. You could just go in everything.
Like, the thing about Bankbuster also was, like, the question of why, right? Even if you just got the 3 cards off of it, and occasionally it's a 4/4, that's still really damn good, and we're probably still going to play it. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, when you get the 3rd card, there's a bonus creature that shows up, and you get a treasure.
Yeah.
Why the hell do you even get a treasure?
Yeah.
like
I'll be honest. I forgot that you got.
I forgot you got a treasure. That's how good that card was.
The card is dumb. I'm like, why does it do these things?
Why do you get a treasure token? Why is it rewarding you with mana back for playing mana to draw? I don't, man. That card was just so nuts, and it was just in everything. And I appreciate them removing cards that I think sort of specifically is, if you're in this color, you can't not play this card. If you're in red, you got to play Fable. If you're in black, you got to play Invoke. And if you're just playing Standard, you probably have to play Reckon or Bankbuster, because your deck's just better with it than without it. Yeah. And your opponent's going to have it, and you're not. That's going to be a problem. So
it is certainly the best of that type of card that they've ever printed. Mm-hmm. They wanted Treasure Map to be good. I think they wanted like Sunset Pyramid to exist, but they never really printed a card quite like Bankbuster that gave you all of that value so consistently, and then something else at the end.
I think the other thing too about Bankbuster is it didn't get the Rider to have to be used as a sorcery.
Yeah.
Right. So you could just leave mana up, and we have so much efficient spot removal at instant speed. So, like, you could just hang around on your mana, and if your opponent didn't do anything, okay, cool. I think I'm going to get a card while we're at it.
Right. You keep Make Disappear up, and they don't do anything. Yeah. Great, let's draw. And they do something cool, Make Disappear, or Doomblade that thing, and it's dead. And someone had mentioned here on Tumblr, where Mark Rosewater was talking about it, and, noting that, cards being banned are not always a sign that things went wrong, quote unquote. I mean, Magic is a game, it's a game engine. Pieces go in, things fly out. He noted, I truly believe if nothing ever gets banned, we aren't doing our job or job properly. We're supposed to come up to the line, which occasionally means we step over it, as where exactly the line is changes based on everything. What people are playing, what people are not playing, what is exciting, what's better than they thought it was going to be when in R&D. So I'm always happy to see bans, if nothing else, because it's cool to say this was the format. And this was something that was too good in it, and now let's make a new one, and let's see what's the best in it. 'Cause something's got to be the best. You just don't want it to be these cards anymore.
I think I agree mostly in theory. I think that the sentence, when we approach a line, sometimes we cross it, is a dangerous thing to apply to just everything in your life. But certainly when it comes to game design, I'm fine with it. Sure. You want, when you play good defense, sometimes you score own goals. Is a thing that we used to say when I played soccer pretty competitively. Was like, good defenders score own goals, and that's what happens. Sometimes you design stuff that is too good, a little bit too good, and they have the valves to be able to release stuff. And I think that it's a mature way of looking at game design, and I'm pleased that they look at it that way.
And also, I also want to say this, that I think this is another case that proves that all this speculation that goes on when a set comes out and everybody's, this card's too good and this thing needs to be banned and this is going to break the format, whatever. We kind of all knew that Fable was going to be pretty good, because you could read that and go okay, well, I'm going to get some extra treasure, and then eventually I get to copy things, and we all know how good Kiki Jiki was, whatever.
Yeah.
But we weren't really saying that about Invoke Despair. You know what I mean? We weren't really saying that about Bankbuster. We knew we were going to play Bankbuster, and getting cards is nice, but we didn't realize how nice that 4/4 was going to be and how ubiquitous that was going to be across the format. So it's easy to think that, oh, well, we could catch the ones that are going to be a problem, or how did Wizards not know this was going to be a thing? But none of us were really worried about those 2 cards in the beginning.
I would, as a man who's gotten a lot of things wrong, and as a man who has gotten a lot of things that I've gotten wrong rubbed in my face so many times over the years, I'm sorry, have we looked at the price of Invasion of Gobakon? My number one card of the set. My number one pick. I said it was the best card in the set. This card was absolutely incredible, and it did a lot of nothing until it started to be played in these decks, and it's a $15 card.
For what it's worth, people should have been watching us making standard content on YouTube, because we've all been playing the crap out of that card.
That card is nuts. The card is fantastic. So it's nice to see that one come through. So the Arena Championship 3 happened. Congratulations to Benjamin Broadstone for winning it. There were more Rakdos mid-range decks than any other. Not a huge surprise. But Frank Karsten noted here that the Blood Tithe Fable decks were beatable. They won only 47.4% of the matches. This suggests that Standard retains potential for metagame dynamics even without bans. But you know what I would say? I would say there's a reason for that, because those cards warped the metagame around them, so everyone had a solid plan against them.
Right.
And it's also a small field, right? It's 32 people, so, and you know the quality of decks everybody's going to be bringing. Like, there's not going to be the random early rounds with, like, you know, just scrubs trying to get in there and take a shot, whatever. So, like, the numbers always get kind of shifted or screwed. Like, it just get a little mixed up a little bit when you have smaller fields, all good players, and everybody targeting the best deck.
Yeah. But with that said, Rakdos still won the tournament. You know, it may have only been 47% overall win percentage, but it did end up winning. Yeah,
and it was two different Rakdos decks and files. I believe one was like the Reanimator, and the other was just a regular mid-rangey deck.
Correct. Yes, there were some sort of Reanimator centric Rakdos things, and it seemed like the regular decks did better. The not graveyard focused decks did better.
You know, I think, and I know this is a little weird, but like, I don't know how close Blood Tithe Harvester is to the Banhammer, but it's just wild to me that when you're super efficient in mana cost / ability, and you make more than one permanent, more than your sort of yourself as you enter the battlefield, those are crazy red flags for being too good of a Magic card. Like, it's real close.
Like, why it's a 3/2 and gets to be a removal card, I don't know. But
you know,
yeah, it's real close.
It's real close. All right, so move on here to congratulate the professor for funding another Kickstarter project here. Oh my god, don't mess with me, freaking Kickstarter. It's like, you need to log out, you know, and you should log in. I'm just trying to look at the project, man. Anyway, so he's doing a Shuffle Up and Play Season 2 that did get funded. Over $250,000 raised at this point from over 3,000 backers. Super duper cool. It's funny to me because you know, I talk to Prof a lot, you know, via chats, and I know how sort of concerned he was about this, and I was like, dude, you're gonna do, you know, it's gonna be great. You're awesome. It's wonderful. Super happy it went well. You know, he was worried about it. I'm like, dude, you do not need to worry. You know, people love this stuff, and it's great to see the community come around and be like, yes, we want to see more of this, and we will fund it to make it so.
Nice. Yeah, congrats. It's nice to see people still want the paper, you know, content product. I mean, Professor's still killing it. He's still top of the mountain, and it is funny to hear him think that it could in some way not succeed. But yeah,
I think it also speaks to just how much people love him. You know, I think almost any project he puts up is likely to be funded in the first 24, 48 hours at this point. Right. But good on him. You know, he's done a lot of good for a lot of different parts of the community. He's had a consistent track record for a very long time at this point. So yeah, he's earned every bit of that. So good on him.
Yeah, so this is, you know, and that's part of the culmination of, you know, years and years of hard work and incredible content, and, you know, treating his guests right and things, and making sure he has all those ducks in a row, and then the help he needs to make the stuff super high quality. And now the community's helping with him, you know, putting that money back in the show and equipment and on the set and all that good stuff. It's been really cool and fun to watch. Last thing I want to know here was just a little slice of life of Magic. I'll bring it up here on the screen so you guys can see it, because this is just one of those, just like, this is just sweet. I can't see this and not just love it. And Missouri MTG, Jeremy here had posted, let's bring this up for you guys, a complete set of every Magic the Gathering card ever printed. He's fortunate enough to be buying it, the dreams of every Magic the Gathering collector. It's a sight to behold.
I think I might know, I'm not going to say it on camera, but I think I might know the location of that, because as COVID was kicking off, I almost did an interview, and I believe it's with this person who owns this collection, to just talk about like the idea of collecting everything. Because if I remember right, this person has a literal complete set of everything, maybe missing 1 or 2 cards, and like all the special sets, all the weird rare things. Like, it was the most complete individual collection that wasn't owned by like a company, probably privately held collection that I know of.
And especially since 2016, like, it has exploded.
That is a shocking thing to be able to do. And it is also the fact that only one person has it. It seems, at least publicly, at least bragging about it, is very funny.
And the thing I thought about even is, if somebody does buy this, what do you ultimately do with it, right? Like, you
don't want to break it up.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Like, you can't sell it, right? Because it almost feels wrong.
It's a time capsule, right?
So now you become the new like keeper of the library, effectively, and you just keep adding to it with these. Make sure you get a complete set, put it in a binder. Find a matching binder, put it on the wall, and like you are now straddled with this burden. You know what I mean? Like,
for the rest of your life, you buy one of everything, and you just keep it up, and then later on, you'll pass this magical time capsule to somebody else, and you'll make plenty of money off it when you do, and then you just keep on moving.
Yeah, hell, the first 10 years of that keeps going up, like, feels like 20% every year. So, have fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird, but, from sort of like from the business side of it, in terms of like what a Magic business wants to do, is they want to buy and resell the same card as many times as possible. That round trip of get it and sell it and get it and sell it. And so, while this is cool, the man's got to make money and is a business, and you'll be like, look, there's an amount you'll want to sort of pass it on to somebody else, and that's just kind of how it goes, But look out for those who are in the collectible market for something that significant. All right, let's go ahead and turn the corner here to the finisher. Just before we went live, YouTube blew up, and so then YouTube Twitter blew up, and so now YouTube Twitter Magic Mics is blowing up. A huge percentage of long-form videos have just kind of disappeared from many creators, sending many into a tizzy on the interwebs. But here we are, all long-time long-form creators. So tell me, what piece of overly verbose video would you be saddest to see go should those code wizards at YouTube Studios be unable to resurrect their product, Ruben?
Well, Vsauce is a creator whose energy and research and whose speaking way of talking has long been an inspiration for me personally. He asks the big questions like, is cereal soup? Did people used to look older? And probably the classic, when will Mark Rosewater finally ruin Magic?
He's been at it for so long. He's just year after year.
He's tried so many times.
He's had many opportunities, but he keeps dodging those bullets.
Power Dragon?
The series Defunctland. Documents the history of discontinued amusement parks, centers of fun, those types of things. And you're going to have stuff that just fallen by the wayside, like Action Park, Body Wars, and, of course, the one we all know, the Magic Arena Pro League.
Oof. As a human who was alive in the ancient days of the 1980s, the 8-Bit Guy is a creator whom I'd miss if his videos disappeared forever, but fortunately we're in 2023. 8 bits? That's not a lot. So even if we lose everything, we can simply chat GPT the scripts again and AI regenerate these channels back from the recycle bin. It's going to be amazing.
That's not a bad plan.
Yeah, dear AI,
Yay.
make them Magic Mics, make them funny jokes, and we're done with a finisher. And that ends another live episode of Magic Mics. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Power Dragon.
As always, good to be here.
Thank you, Ruben.
Well, as a large language model who's still learning, I hope that my approximation of humanity has sufficed for this episode.
We have made content as we move here to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffing.com, our co-sponsor, Mana Traders, my co-host, Power Dragon, and Ruben Bressler. You guys for watching and listening. I hope you support us at patreon.com/magicmics. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online on our Discord, twitch.tv at Magic Mics, on Twitter at Magic Mics Cast, our Magic Mics subreddit, and like the Magic Mics page on Facebook. Or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.